Verity ran a hand through her hair, pushing it away from her face and tucking it behind her ears. The movement caught Gareth's eyes, and he kept looking. The ear, he could see, was abnormally small, perhaps half the length for typical adults, and rounded. Sat alongside the rest of her otherwise normal facial features, it gave her a rather peculiar appearance. She caught him looking, flushed slightly, and obscured her ear once more. "I didn't mean to stare," he said. She shrugged dismissively. The gesture had already become a familiar one to him. "It's no big deal, I can hear all right. I know I look a bit funny." "Well, it's unusual, but that's okay," he said. She turned, giving him an odd look. Gareth felt that her excessively small ears were rather appealing. Physical flaws intrigued him in ways he could never admit to most people. Deviations from perfection, be they accidents of genetics or misadventure, attracted him. It embarrassed him to realize that he wanted to touch her ears, to examine their peculiarity with his fingers, to kiss them even. "What are you thinking?" she asked him. He laughed nervously, not really wanting to answer and encounter all the complexities that must follow. "You'll think I'm a right weirdo," he said. She grinned at this. "You say that like you think it's a bad thing, Gareth." "It is for most people." "I like weird. Try me." "I was thinking—" He swallowed, looked at her, and wondered whether it might be better to shut up. "I was thinking about your ears," he said lamely. "What about my ears?" He felt himself blush, and a little voice in his head started protesting that he could not do this, should not do this. "About touching them." He'd said it, and now there was no looking her in the eye even. She said nothing, which felt worse than the rebuff he had imagined. "So you get off on freaks," she said. Gareth risked a look. She was watching him closely, and as he raised his eyes, she took a step towards him, then another. With one bare arm, she swept her blonde hair back so that he could see both her ears. They were perfectly matched, and beautifully disproportionate to the rest of her face. "You want to touch?" Gareth felt as though he'd fallen into a dream, with reality becoming increasingly bizarre and his actions drifting beyond his control. He raised his right hand, traced the curved edge of her ear, stroked across its ridges. Then he brought his left hand in as well, so that his palms were on either side of her face, his fingers brushing against her silky hair. Her ears were hot beneath his hands, and unlike any others he had seen or touched before. There was a moment when he knew what must happen next. The inevitability of it flashed before his eyes. They were going to kiss. He could not have said how he knew this, and although the voice of reason in his mind told him this was a bad idea, he made no move to resist. Her lips closed against his, bestowing the lightest whisper of a kiss. It seemed so very easy to cup her face in his hands and kiss back. He could remember how to make the right moves, how to part his lips and offer up his tongue, even though he hadn't shared such an intimacy in years. Hers were cautious kisses at first, just nibbling at him and teasing the tip of her tongue against his mouth. Her arms found their way around his waist, and something caught her. Confidence, lust, he knew not which. He could feel the change in the way she moved. Her lips pressed hungrily over his, then all he could think about was the softness of her mouth, the feel of her moist flesh inside him, with slippery entangling tongues cavorting, as their lips crushed together. His fingers found her neck, her shoulders. He pulled off his glasses with one hand so that he could get his face closer to hers. "I really wasn't going to do that," Verity said. "Neither was I." "It probably wasn't a good idea," she added. "No," he agreed, "it wasn't. I'm not a good bet, I'm afraid." "That's usually my line." Verity smiled. They eyed each other, and Gareth had the impression she was holding back as many secrets and questions as he was. "Thank you, though," he said. "What for?" "For kissing me like that." She kissed him again, this time pulling him closer too. Her breast squeezed against his chest. From the tightness of her grip and the urgency of her tongue, he suspected this might be turning her on. That was a complication he had previously given no thought to. "I'm guessing you're not gay," she said. "Correct. But I'm also guessing if I invited you to my bed, you'd say no." "Believe me, I'm tempted," he said. "But no?"